Have you ever felt like inner peace is just out of reach, no matter how hard you try? Imagine standing at the edge of a serene lake, the water perfectly still, reflecting the sky above. But then, a single stone disturbs the surface, sending ripples that disrupt the tranquility. Those ripples, much like the habits we unconsciously hold onto, can disturb the stillness within us. Today, we're going to explore 12 habits that every Stoic should ditch to achieve a peaceful life. These aren't just random bad habits. They're the subtle, often unnoticed behaviors that slowly erode our inner calm, much like those ripples on the lake. But before we dive in, ask yourself, what small habits might be quietly undermining your peace of mind? As we go through each one, I challenge you to reflect on your own life and see if any of these resonate with you. If you're ready to take control of your peace and align your life with the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, you're in the right place. And while we're on this journey together, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our community of like-minded individuals striving for a more stoic and balanced life. Trust me, you won't want to miss the insights we're about to uncover. Now, let's get started. Habit 1. Procrastination. Imagine a Roman general on the eve of battle. He has meticulously planned every move, anticipating his enemy's strategy. But what if, instead of taking decisive action, he hesitated, put off crucial decisions until the last minute? The consequences would be disastrous, not just for him, but for his entire army. Procrastination is the modern equivalent of this hesitation, an insidious habit that can derail even the most carefully laid plans. In the fast-paced world we live in, procrastination is often dismissed as a minor flaw, something we all do from time to time. But for the Stoic, procrastination is more than just a bad habit. It's a thief of time. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, warned against the dangers of wasting time, urging us to hold every hour in your grasp. For a Stoic, each moment is an opportunity to live according to virtue, to improve oneself, and to serve the greater good. When we procrastinate, we are essentially squandering the most valuable resource we have: time. Think about the last time you put off a task. Maybe it was something small, like responding to an email, or something significant, like starting a new project. How did it make you feel? Often, procrastination leads to anxiety and guilt, feelings that disturb our inner peace. And yet, it's a cycle many of us find hard to break. The Stoic solution? Act immediately, without delay. Take that first step, no matter how small, and let momentum carry you forward. But why is it so hard to stop procrastinating? It's because we often overestimate the time we have. We think, I'll do it tomorrow, but tomorrow turns into next week, and suddenly the opportunity is gone. Seneca's advice is clear. Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life. By treating each day as a new life, we are reminded to make the most of every moment, to act now rather than later. As you reflect on this, consider the tasks you've been putting off. What's one thing you can do right now to move forward? Remember, the smallest action is better than the grandest intention that never comes to fruition. And as we move on to the next habit, think about how procrastination has impacted your peace of mind and what you can do to change that. Next, we'll explore another habit that may be silently undermining your tranquility, one that involves indulging in excess, whether it's food, luxury, or even leisure. How does overindulgence cloud our judgment and detract from the Stoic ideal of self-discipline? Stick around, and we'll dive into that next. Habit 2. Overindulgence. Picture a lavish Roman banquet, the Kind, where the tables are laden, with every delicacy imaginable, juicy figs, rich wines, roasted meats. The guests, adorned in fine garments, are encouraged to eat and drink to their heart's content. But while the food and drink may flow freely, the Stoics would see this scene in a very different light. To them, such indulgence represents the kind of excess that clouds the mind and weakens the soul. Overindulgence, whether in food, luxury, or even entertainment, is more than just a momentary lapse in self-control. It's a step away from the Stoic ideal of moderation and discipline. Musonius Rufus, a lesser-known but highly respected Stoic philosopher, warned that overindulgence not only disrupts the body's natural balance, but also leads to a clouded judgment, making it harder to live a life of virtue. Imagine eating to the point of discomfort. Not only does it make you sluggish, but it also distracts you from more meaningful pursuits. Now think about how this plays out in modern life. It's not just about overeating. It could be binge-watching shows, indulging in luxury shopping, or losing hours to social media. These behaviors may offer temporary pleasure, but they often leave us feeling empty afterward, with a gnawing sense that something is amiss. This is because overindulgence is inherently at odds with the Stoic pursuit of eudaimonia, true, lasting happiness that comes from living in accordance with virtue. But why do we indulge in excess? It often stems from a desire to escape discomfort or boredom, to fill a void that we don't want to confront. However, the Stoics believed that true contentment comes not from abundance, but from simplicity. They practice moderation in all things, believing that by doing so, they could focus their energy on what truly matters, developing wisdom, courage, and justice. As you consider your own habits, ask yourself, are there areas in your life where you tend to overindulge? What drives this behavior, and how does it make you feel afterward? By identifying these patterns, you can start to replace them with habits that align with Stoic values, such as practicing gratitude for what you have and setting clear limits on indulgence. Next, we'll delve into a habit that's just as insidious, yet often goes unnoticed: overthinking. How does the constant churn of thoughts and worries keep us from living in the present moment? And what can the Stoics teach us about silencing that inner noise? Stay tuned, as the next section will shed light on the dangers of overthinking and how to master your mind for a more peaceful life. Habit 3. Overthinking. Imagine a philosopher sitting alone in his study, surrounded by scrolls of ancient wisdom. His mind, however, is not on the pages in front of him, but racing through countless thoughts. What if I made the wrong decision earlier today? What if things don't turn out as I hope? Overthinking, this endless spiral of thoughts, is like a storm that disrupts the calm sea of the mind, preventing us from focusing on the present and acting with clarity. Overthinking is a habit that plagues many of us. We replay conversations in our heads, obsess over potential outcomes, and get lost in a labyrinth of what-ifs. While reflection is a key component of Stoic practice, the Stoics themselves warned against letting our thoughts run wild. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Overthinking often leads to overreaction, and instead of responding to situations with Stoic calm, we find ourselves caught in a web of anxiety and doubt. Think about the last time you couldn't sleep because your mind wouldn't quiet down. Perhaps you were worrying about something at work or replaying a mistake you made earlier in the day. How did it feel to be trapped in that cycle of thought? Overthinking is exhausting, draining our mental energy and making it difficult to focus on what's truly important. It's as if our minds become so cluttered with possibilities and fears that we lose sight of the present moment, the only moment we truly have control over. But why do we fall into the trap of overthinking? Often, it's because we believe that by thinking through every possible scenario, we can prevent bad things from happening. However, the Stoics teach us that this is an illusion. We cannot control everything that happens to us, but we can control our response. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." By focusing on what we can control, our thoughts and actions, we can free ourselves from the paralyzing grip of overthinking. As you listen to this, consider the thoughts that have been weighing on your mind. Are they helping you take productive action, or are they simply creating unnecessary stress? One practical Stoic exercise is to write down your worries, then separate them into things you can control and things you can't. By doing this, you can focus your energy where it's most effective and let go of the rest. Next, we'll explore another habit that can subtly erode our peace, seeking external validation. How does relying on the approval of others weaken our sense of self and lead us away from the Stoic path? Join me in the next section as we delve into the dangers of living for the applause of others and how to cultivate inner confidence instead. Habit 4. Seeking external validation. Imagine standing in the grand amphitheater of ancient Rome, surrounded by thousands of spectators. The gladiators in the arena below you fight not just for survival, but for the crowd's approval. Their lives in that moment hinge on the roar of the audience. But what happens when the crowd is silent? What if the applause never comes? For those who live by the cheers of others, silence can be more devastating than any opponent. In our modern world, the amphitheater has been replaced by social media platforms, workplaces, and social circles. We often find ourselves chasing likes, compliments, and recognition, believing that the more approval we receive, the more valuable we become. But for a Stoic, this relentless pursuit of external validation is a dangerous habit, one that places our sense of self-worth in the hands of others. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, reminds us, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Why do we seek external validation? Often it's rooted in insecurity, a fear that we aren't enough on our own. We look to others to affirm our choices, to tell us that we're on the right path. But this dependence on external praise can lead us away from our true selves. When we constantly seek approval, we start to shape our actions and decisions to please others, rather than to align with our own values and principles. The Stoics teach us that true confidence and inner peace come from within, not from the fleeting opinions of others. Think about a time when you received praise, perhaps for a job well done, a creative project, or even just a kind gesture. How long did that feeling of validation last? Likely it was short-lived, soon replaced by a desire for more approval. This is the trap of seeking external validation. It's never enough. The Stoics understood this well. They believed that by focusing on inner virtue rather than external recognition, we can achieve a lasting sense of fulfillment. After all, as Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." So how can we break free from the need for external validation? The first step is to cultivate self-awareness. Start by reflecting on your recent actions. Were they driven by a desire to please others, or did they align with your true values? Next, practice self-affirmation. Remind yourself regularly that your worth is not determined by others' opinions, but by your own integrity and character. By doing so, you'll begin to build a foundation of inner confidence that is unshakable, regardless of external praise. As we conclude this section, consider this. What would your life look like if you stopped seeking approval from others? How much more peaceful and authentic would your actions be if they were driven solely by your own values? In the next part of our journey, we'll explore another habit that can erode your peace: avoiding discomfort. How does the Stoic embrace of adversity lead to true resilience and strength? Stay with me as we dive into the power of facing life's challenges head-on. Habit 5. Avoiding discomfort. Imagine the Spartan warriors of ancient Greece, known for their extraordinary discipline and resilience. From a young age, they were trained to embrace hardship, to endure pain, cold, hunger, and fear without flinching. Their philosophy was simple. Discomfort is not an enemy to be avoided, but a teacher that strengthens the mind and body. The Stoics, too, believed that true growth comes from facing challenges head-on, not from shying away into comfort. In our modern world, however, it's all too easy to avoid discomfort. With the click of a button, we can order food, entertain ourselves for hours, and insulate ourselves from anything unpleasant. But what happens when we constantly choose the path of least resistance? We become weaker, less resilient, and more dependent on comfort to feel secure. For the Stoic, this is a dangerous habit that erodes our strength and prevents us from living a truly virtuous life. Let's think about a time when you faced a difficult situation. Maybe it was a tough conversation you were dreading, a challenging project at work, or even a personal goal that required real effort. How often did you find yourself procrastinating or making excuses to avoid the discomfort? It's a natural response, but one that the Stoics urge us to resist. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, reminds us that difficulties show a person's character. By facing challenges directly, we discover what we're truly capable of and build the resilience needed to handle life's inevitable hardships. But why do we avoid discomfort in the first place? Often, it's because of fear of failure, fear of pain, fear of the unknown. Yet, the Stoics teach us that these fears are often exaggerated in our minds. Marcus Aurelius advised, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacles we fear are often the very things that will lead us to growth and fulfillment. By confronting them, we turn potential setbacks into stepping stones. So, how can we start embracing discomfort instead of avoiding it? One practical approach is to intentionally seek out small challenges each day. This could be as simple as taking a cold shower, having that difficult conversation, or pushing yourself to complete a task you've been avoiding. Over time, these small acts of courage build your mental toughness, making you more prepared for life's bigger challenges. As you reflect on this, consider, what discomfort have you been avoiding in your life? What would happen if you faced it head-on? In the next section, we'll explore another habit that can quietly undermine our peace: neglecting relationships. How does Stoic philosophy help us strike the right balance between detachment and meaningful connection? Stay with me as we uncover the Stoic approach to nurturing relationships without losing ourselves in them. Habit 6. Neglecting relationships. Imagine the great Stoic philosopher Seneca, a man of immense wisdom and influence, sitting alone in his study. Despite his profound understanding of the human condition, Seneca knew the importance of maintaining meaningful relationships. He understood that even the most self-sufficient individuals are not islands unto themselves. The Stoics, while advocating for inner strength and self-reliance, also recognize that human connections are vital to a balanced and fulfilling life. In our busy lives, it's easy to let relationships slide. We get caught up in work, personal projects, and the endless stream of daily responsibilities. Before we know it, weeks or even months have passed without a meaningful conversation with a close friend or family member. This neglect can lead to feelings of isolation and disconnection, which directly contradicts the Stoic understanding of our interconnectedness with others. Consider the last time you felt truly connected to someone. Maybe it was a deep conversation with a friend or a moment of shared laughter with a family member. How did that make you feel? Most likely, it brought a sense of warmth, belonging, and even joy. The Stoics believed that while we must cultivate inner peace, we should also cherish and nurture our relationships. Seneca wrote, "No one can live happily who has regard to himself alone and transforms everything into a question of his own utility. You must live for your neighbor if you would live for yourself." Why do we sometimes neglect the people who matter most to us? Often, it's because we're focused on our own immediate needs and goals, forgetting that relationships are not just an aspect of life, but the very fabric of it. The Stoics remind us that while we should strive for independence, we should also recognize that our well-being is deeply connected to the well-being of those around us. So, how can we ensure that we don't neglect our relationships? The key is intentionality. Make time in your schedule for the people who matter to you, just as you would for any other important task. Reach out to a friend, plan a visit with family, or simply spend time nurturing the relationships you already have. These connections don't just enrich your life, they also provide support and strength when times are tough. As you think about your relationships, ask yourself, are there people in your life you've unintentionally drifted away from? How can you reconnect and rekindle those bonds? In the next section, we'll tackle another habit that can quietly corrode our peace: holding grudges. How does harboring resentment undermine the Stoic pursuit of inner tranquility? And what steps can we take to let go and move forward? Stick around as we delve into the power of forgiveness and the freedom it brings. Habit 7. Holding grudges. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor of Rome, sitting in his private quarters after a long day of ruling an empire. Despite the weight of his responsibilities, he finds a moment of quiet to reflect. Throughout his life, Marcus faced betrayal, deceit, and slander, yet he knew that harboring resentment would only poison his mind and disrupt his peace. He famously wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, to let go of grudges and live according to virtue, not vengeance. Holding a grudge might feel justified, especially when someone has wronged us deeply. The anger and resentment can fester, occupying our thoughts and influencing our actions. But while a grudge may seem like a form of self-protection, it actually harms us more than anyone else. The Stoics understood that holding on to anger is like clutching a burning coal. It's you who gets burned. Think about a time when you held a grudge. Maybe it was against a friend who betrayed your trust, a colleague who undermined you at work, or even a family member who said something hurtful. How did that resentment affect you? Did it give you peace, or did it keep you up at night, replaying the incident in your mind? The Stoics teach us that forgiveness is not just an act of kindness toward others. It's an act of liberation for ourselves. By letting go of grudges, we free ourselves from the chains of the past and regain control over our emotions. But why is it so difficult to let go? Often, it's because we feel that by forgiving, we're condoning the wrong that was done to us. However, Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing harmful behavior. Instead, it's about choosing not to let that behavior dictate our emotional state. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, reminds us that we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. By choosing forgiveness, we reclaim our power and ensure that our peace of mind remains intact. So, how can we begin to let go of grudges? Start by practicing empathy. Try to see the situation from the other person's perspective. What might have driven them to act the way they did? Next, remind yourself of the Stoic principle of focusing only on what you can control, your own actions and reactions. Finally, make a conscious decision to release the anger and move forward. This doesn't mean you have to reconcile with the person who wronged you, but it does mean you're choosing to prioritize your inner peace over lingering resentment. As we wrap up this section, consider, what grudges are you holding on to and how are they affecting your life? What steps can you take today to start letting go? In the next section, we'll tackle another common but often overlooked habit, avoiding reflection. How does neglecting daily self-examination prevent us from living a life of virtue? And what can we do to cultivate this essential Stoic practice? Join me as we explore the importance of introspection and its role in achieving true inner peace. Habit 8. Avoiding reflection. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, at the end of a long day. Despite his immense responsibilities, he takes a moment to sit quietly, journal in hand, reflecting on the day's events. He considers his actions, his thoughts, and the challenges he faced. This nightly practice wasn't just a routine, it was a cornerstone of his Stoic discipline, a way to ensure that he lived each day in alignment with his values. The practice of reflection, for Marcus and for all Stoics, was essential for personal growth and inner peace. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to skip over reflection. We move from one task to the next, filling our days with activity, but often neglecting to pause and consider how we're living. This avoidance of reflection can lead to a life that feels aimless, where our actions are dictated by external demands rather than our own principles. The Stoics, however, believed that without regular self-examination, we risk losing sight of what truly matters. Think about the last time you took a moment to reflect on your day. Did you assess your actions, your thoughts, and your decisions? Or did you simply fall into bed, exhausted and distracted? The habit of reflection, though simple, can have profound effects on how we live. As Epictetus wisely noted, if you seek truth, you will not seek to gain a victory by every possible means, and when you have found truth, you need not fear being defeated. Reflection allows us to seek the truth within ourselves, to understand our motivations, to learn from our mistakes, and to align our lives more closely with our values. But why do so many of us avoid reflection? Often, it's because we're afraid of what we might find. Facing our flaws, our failures, and our shortcomings is uncomfortable. It's much easier to stay busy, to keep moving forward without looking back. However, the Stoics teach us that this discomfort is necessary for growth. By reflecting regularly, we gain clarity and insight, allowing us to make more intentional choices and to live with greater purpose. So, how can we incorporate reflection into our daily lives? One effective method is to end each day with a brief journaling session. Take a few minutes to write down what went well, what didn't, and what you can learn from the day's events. This practice doesn't need to be time-consuming. Just a few minutes of honest reflection can help you stay on track and ensure that you're living according to your values. Additionally, consider asking yourself key questions each evening. Did I act with integrity today? Did I allow external events to disturb my inner peace? How can I do better tomorrow? As we wrap up this section, I invite you to think about your own habits. Are you taking the time to reflect on your actions and choices? If not, what's holding you back? In the next part of our journey, we'll explore another habit that can subtly undermine our well-being, speaking more than listening. How does the Stoic practice of silence and active listening lead to deeper understanding and stronger relationships? Stay tuned as we dive into the art of listening and the power it holds in our lives. Habit 9. Speaking more than listening. Imagine Socrates, the great philosopher of ancient Greece, engaging in one of his legendary dialogues. But rather than dominating the conversation with his own thoughts, Socrates listens intently, asking questions that guide his companions to discover the truth for themselves. This method of inquiry, known as the Socratic method, relies not on speaking but on listening, a practice that is deeply aligned with Stoic principles. The Stoics believed that true wisdom comes from understanding others, and that requires listening more than speaking. In our modern, fast-paced world, it's easy to fall into the habit of talking more than we listen. We're often so eager to share our thoughts, experiences, and opinions that we forget to truly hear what others are saying. Yet, this habit can prevent us from learning, building strong relationships, and even from understanding ourselves. The Stoics, particularly Seneca, emphasized the importance of silence and reflection, noting that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, to listen twice as much as we speak. Consider a recent conversation you had. Did you find yourself waiting for your turn to speak, rather than fully engaging with what the other person was saying? How did that affect the conversation? When we speak more than we listen, we miss out on valuable insights and connections. Listening is not just about hearing words. It's about understanding the person behind those words, their emotions, their perspectives, and their experiences. By speaking less and listening more, we open ourselves up to deeper connections and greater wisdom. But why do we struggle with this? Often, it's because we associate speaking with authority and control. We fear that if we don't assert ourselves verbally, we'll be overlooked or misunderstood. However, the Stoics teach us that true influence comes not from dominating a conversation, but from understanding and guiding it. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reminded himself to be mindful of how he spoke and listened, valuing the opinions of others, and using silence as a tool for reflection. So, how can we cultivate the habit of listening more and speaking less? One practical approach is to enter every conversation with the intention of learning something new. This shifts your focus from what you're going to say next to truly understanding the other person. Another technique is to practice active listening, repeating back what you've heard to confirm understanding, asking clarifying questions, and resisting the urge to interrupt. Over time, these practices can transform your interactions, making them more meaningful and productive. As you think about this, ask yourself, how often do you really listen in your conversations? What might change if you made listening your priority? In the next section, we'll explore another habit that can derail our Stoic journey: chasing material wealth. How does the pursuit of riches distract us from what truly matters, and how can we refocus on inner virtues instead? Stay with me as we delve into the Stoic perspective on wealth and contentment. Habit 10. Chasing material wealth. Picture a wealthy Roman senator walking through his lavish villa, adorned with marble statues, gold trinkets and tapestries from distant lands. Despite his immense wealth, there's a void he can't fill, a nagging sense that something crucial is missing. The Stoics would argue that this senator, in his relentless pursuit of material wealth, has lost sight of what truly matters: inner virtue and tranquility. In today's world, the chase for material wealth is more prevalent than ever. We're constantly bombarded with images of luxury cars, designer clothes, and extravagant homes, symbols of success that we're told will bring us happiness. But the Stoics understood that true contentment doesn't come from accumulating possessions. It comes from cultivating virtues like wisdom, courage, and justice. Seneca, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, warned that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Think about the last time you desired something material: a new gadget, a piece of jewelry, or an expensive vacation. How much of your time and energy went into acquiring it? And once you had it, did it bring you lasting happiness, or was the satisfaction fleeting? The Stoics believed that this endless pursuit of more money, more possessions, more status, traps us in a cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. Instead of focusing on what we have, we're constantly reaching for what we don't, leaving us perpetually unfulfilled. But why do we chase material wealth? Often it's because society equates wealth with success, power, and even happiness. We're led to believe that the more we have, the more we're worth. However, the Stoics teach us that our true worth is not measured by what we own, but by how we live. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, often reminded himself that all the wealth and power in the world could not compare to the peace of a virtuous mind. "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind," he wrote. "Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." So, how can we break free from the habit of chasing material wealth? The first step is to shift our focus from external possessions to internal values. Start by practicing gratitude for what you already have, both materially and spiritually. Reflect on the virtues you want to cultivate and how they can bring you a deeper, more lasting sense of fulfillment than any material possession ever could. Additionally, challenge the societal notion that wealth equals happiness by surrounding yourself with people who prioritize character and virtue over material success. As we conclude this section, ask yourself, how much of your time and energy is spent pursuing material wealth, and what impact does that have on your peace of mind? What would happen if you redirected that energy toward cultivating inner virtues instead? In the next section, we'll explore another habit that can distract us from the Stoic path: escaping reality through distractions. How does constant entertainment and avoidance prevent us from living fully in the present? Stay with me as we uncover the Stoic approach to engaging with life's challenges head-on, without the crutch of distractions. Habit 11. Escaping reality through distractions. Imagine the citizens of ancient Rome gathering in the Colosseum for a day of games and spectacles. They cheered as gladiators fought, their minds consumed by the excitement of the moment. For many, these events were more than just entertainment. They were a way to escape the harsh realities of life, to forget the struggles and uncertainties that plagued their everyday existence. But the Stoics, observing these distractions, would have cautioned against losing oneself in such fleeting pleasures. They believed that true fulfillment comes not from avoiding life's challenges, but from engaging with them directly. In today's world, distractions are more prevalent than ever. We have endless streams of social media, video games, binge-worthy TV shows, and a host of other forms of entertainment that can easily consume our time and attention. While there's nothing wrong with enjoying a good movie or scrolling through your favorite apps, the problem arises when we use these distractions to avoid dealing with the realities of our lives. The Stoics understood that avoiding reality through distractions prevents us from growing, from confronting our fears, and from truly living in the present moment. Think about the last time you turned to a distraction to escape a difficult situation. Perhaps you buried yourself in a TV series after a tough day at work, or maybe you spent hours scrolling through social media instead of addressing a personal issue that was weighing on you. How did that make you feel afterward? While distractions might provide temporary relief, they often leave us feeling more empty and disconnected than before. The Stoics believed that by facing our challenges head-on, we gain the strength and wisdom needed to navigate life with resilience and grace. But why are we so drawn to distractions? Often, it's because we fear discomfort, failure, or the unknown. It's easier to lose ourselves in entertainment than to sit with our thoughts, to reflect on our lives, or to confront the obstacles before us. However, the Stoics teach us that true contentment comes from embracing life as it is, with all its challenges and uncertainties. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminded himself to be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands, unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. This metaphor encourages us to stand firm in the face of life's storms, rather than seeking refuge in distractions. So, how can we break the habit of escaping reality through distractions? Start by becoming more mindful of how you spend your time. When you feel the urge to turn to a distraction, pause and ask yourself what you're avoiding. Instead of reaching for your phone or turning on the TV, try engaging in a reflective practice, whether it's journaling, meditating, or simply sitting with your thoughts. Over time, this mindfulness can help you build the strength to face your challenges directly, without the need to escape into distractions. As we finish this section, consider your own relationship with distractions. Are there areas in your life where you use entertainment or other forms of escape to avoid dealing with reality? How might your life change if you chose to face these challenges head-on, rather than seeking refuge in distractions? In our next section, we'll explore another habit that can undermine your well-being: neglecting self-care. How does the Stoic commitment to balance and discipline include taking care of one's physical and mental health? Join me as we delve into the importance of self-care in the Stoic philosophy. Habit 12. Neglecting. Self-care. Imagine a soldier preparing for battle. He sharpens his sword, polishes his armor, and ensures that every piece of his equipment is in perfect condition. But what if he neglected his own physical health? What if he entered the battlefield tired, malnourished, and mentally drained? No matter how well prepared his gear might be, his chances of victory would be slim. The Stoics understood this concept well. They knew that to face life's challenges effectively, one must take care of both the body and the mind. In today's hustle culture, where productivity is often valued above all else, self-care can easily fall by the wayside. We push ourselves to the limit, juggling work, family, and social obligations, often neglecting our own needs in the process. But the Stoics, who valued discipline and balance, would argue that neglecting self-care is a form of negligence, not just toward ourselves, but toward our ability to contribute meaningfully to the world. Epictetus, a former slave who became a revered Stoic philosopher, emphasized that we are not just our minds, our bodies are our responsibilities too. He famously stated, "You are a soul carrying a corpse." This wasn't to dismiss the importance of the body, but rather to highlight the interconnectedness of physical and mental well-being. Think about the last time you felt truly exhausted, physically, mentally, or emotionally. How did that impact your day-to-day life? Were you as effective at work? Did you have the energy to be present with your loved ones? The Stoics understood that neglecting self-care diminishes our ability to live according to virtue. If we are constantly tired or unwell, how can we be expected to act with wisdom, courage, and justice? Self-care, therefore, is not about indulgence, but about maintaining the balance needed to fulfill our duties. But why do so many of us neglect self-care? Often it's because we view it as selfish or unnecessary, especially when there are so many external demands on our time and energy. However, the Stoics teach us that taking care of ourselves is not an act of selfishness, but one of responsibility. Just as a warrior must care for his sword to be effective in battle, we must care for our bodies and minds to be effective in life. Marcus Aurelius, who balanced the immense responsibilities of an emperor with the practice of Stoicism, wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. It requires being prepared for sudden attacks. This preparation includes ensuring that we are physically and mentally strong enough to face whatever life throws our way." So, how can we prioritize self-care without feeling guilty or indulgent? Start by recognizing that self-care is a duty, not a luxury. This might mean setting aside time each day for physical exercise, ensuring you get enough sleep, or practicing mindfulness to maintain mental clarity. It could also involve seeking support when needed, whether through friends, family, or professional help. By incorporating these practices into your routine, you ensure that you are well equipped to live a life of virtue and to meet your responsibilities with strength and grace. As we wrap up this section, consider your current self-care habits. Are you giving yourself the time and attention needed to maintain your well-being? How might your life improve if you made self-care a priority? In our final segment, we'll bring everything together, exploring how these 12 habits, when avoided, can lead to a truly peaceful and stoic life. Stay tuned as we conclude this journey with a powerful reflection on living a life aligned with Stoic wisdom. As we conclude this journey through the 12 habits every Stoic should ditch for a peaceful life, I want you to take a moment to reflect on the wisdom of the ancient Stoics and how it applies to your own life. Consider Marcus Aurelius, who, despite the pressures of ruling an empire, constantly reminded himself to focus on what truly matters, living according to virtue. He knew that external circumstances would always be unpredictable, but by cultivating inner peace and resilience, he could face anything with equanimity. The habits we've discussed, procrastination, overindulgence, overthinking, seeking external validation, avoiding discomfort, neglecting relationships, holding grudges, avoiding reflection, speaking more than listening, chasing material wealth, escaping through distractions, and neglecting self-care are all common pitfalls that can pull us away from the Stoic path. But by recognizing these habits and actively working to replace them with practices that align with Stoic principles, you can create a life of greater peace, purpose, and fulfillment. As you move forward, I encourage you to ask yourself, which of these habits resonate with you the most? What small changes can you make today to start living more in line with Stoic philosophy? Remember, the journey to inner peace is not about achieving perfection, but about making consistent progress. Each step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to the life of tranquility and virtue that the Stoics envisioned. If you found value in this discussion and want to continue exploring how Stoicism can transform your life, be sure to subscribe and join our community. Share your thoughts in the comments. What habits are you working to overcome? Let's support each other on this path to living more mindfully and intentionally. Thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, remember the words of Epictetus. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Stay resilient, stay mindful, and keep striving for the peace that comes from living in harmony with your true self.